My name is Mohammed Dulaimi. I'm the Professor of Project Management and Innovation. Also, my main specialization, you want closer, yeah? My main specialization is in construction management. For quite a long time, project management and construction management could not be separated. I remember at the beginning 1990s, when the Association of Project Management in UK was still, growing up. And there was a big meeting. You're talking about maybe 200 people. And then someone said, how many of you are construction? 90% are construction. So construction management, project management sometimes overlap. I'm also director of CIB MENA Research Network. CIB is the International Council for Research and Innovation in Construction and Building. The abbreviation is related to the French name, so that's why it's CIB. It was established in the 1950s after World War II with the sole purpose is that rebuilding Europe is going to be based on the latest knowledge and innovation in construction and building. 1955, yeah? And still today, you'll find in many countries, development starts on what someone knows rather than the best of knowledge. So it's something for us. And we're trying, this is an effort that, although it's an international, it's the activity in the Middle East tend to be quite weak. So what we're trying to do is creating a network. We have a group on LinkedIn. We organize sometimes workshops. We had our first conference in Abu Dhabi in December, last December. And inshallah, the intention is we go to Morocco next year. So between East and West every 2 years. So we bring the research culture. We bring the research activity to different industries. And I'm also a member of the Chartered Institute of Building, an international body that represents building professionals across the value chain of construction. And we'll talk about this, how important it is for such bodies to be active in industry. It encourages professionalism, ethical behavior, and good practice. And it creates a momentum within the industry for development. Before talking about the topic, I just want briefly to tell you about our construction management program. We have a master in construction management. It's fully accredited by the Ministry of Higher Education. Initial accreditation by Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research, as well as the accreditation of the Chartered Institute of Building. If I'm not mistaken, we're probably the only program in the Middle East which has both. I know our neighbors have it, but not the accreditation of the ministry. Yeah? So we have both. In our program, we have, you can study at 3 levels. You may decide, I'm very busy, I don't want to do a master, maybe later on. Fair enough, that's not a problem. You can do a certificate. You have postgraduate certificate by doing only 3 modules, these 2, and you can pick one of these 3. Or you may decide later on, well, actually, I want to continue and get more. You can take another 3 modules and get postgraduate diploma. And then you get excited and you want actually to go for the full master's, then you can do the dissertation. And this is an independent research project, very important for your career. I know many students who later on went on to specialize in their career in whatever they've done in their dissertation. So if you like, you build up the knowledge, you reach a stage where you become an expert in a topic that you choose. So we can debate whether you need a PhD or not. I personally think doing a master if you're interested in practical work, doing a master is almost a must now in many parts of the world. Any questions? Any questions regarding the master program? Anyone wants to ask anything about the master program? Follow. Yes, we have a similar setup, so you can get a certificate and you can get a diploma. I'm not 100%, my memory doesn't serve me at the moment, but in construction management we have a recognition for, so you can get a diploma and recognition from CIOB. With the project management, you can get the diploma in project management as well as recognition from APM and PMI. In project management, alhamdulillah, we have now accreditation from APM and PMI. So if that's of interest to you. Construction management deals with issues related to the project, but looks at the corporate in a big way. If you're interested only about focusing because you want, after finishing the master, I want to do more at project level, then probably project management is, if you want to go further up, more senior, not dealing day-to-day with projects, probably you need to think not project management, something like construction management. But that's your decision. Any other questions about the masters? Okay. How many had this experience? Yes. Guilty. Yeah? Just one. All right. Okay. You see, it's not, stuck in the sand is not the same as stuck in mud. Yeah? It's really horrendous. But what I've learned since I was a teenager, yeah? You don't have a choice, you have to do that when your father's car gets stuck in the mud, is you need to get everyone in the right position and that you all push in the same direction. Yeah? For someone to be standing at the back and someone standing at the, and it happened. Someone standing at the back, someone standing in the front, say, okay, let's push. I said, what are you doing? You're pushing against each other. Okay? Or you're pushing and you find it very hard, but the guy who's sitting in the car did not put the gear in place. Yeah? Or he got the handbrake on. Yeah? I don't know if it was intentional or unintentional. But that's what happened with teams. And we in the construction industry have been really challenged. And then it went into any organization interested in building teams. How can we get people to work in an integrated way? How can you develop a cohesive team that's willing and capable of contributing to the success of the project? Can we switch off the lights if we can? We get a lot of these pictures now and then about big mistakes in construction, but I like this one. I don't know, the bricklayer, the window fixer, actually there's curtain as well. Someone put a curtain as well. No one noticed that the window is actually, there's something seriously wrong with it. Yeah? There are a lot of these things that really makes you stop and think and say, did anyone involved in delivering this particular project actually stopped and thought about what's wrong with that and why we're doing it like that? I can tell you, almost all of them did. Yeah? But everyone said, it has nothing to do with me. Yeah? They did it, go on. I've seen a lot of examples. Say, do it. Our Egyptian friends, they got a saying, tie the donkey wherever the owner wants it. Yeah? So it says, well, look, I want you to put a window here. Looks at it and say, I don't care, I'm going to put a window here. He said, but there's something wrong. Don't you want to say something? I said, no, it has. He said, put a window, I'm putting a window. putting a curtain. I'm going to plaster around it, and so on. Construction is a very important industry. We are a very important industry. More than 50% of GDP of any country is related to the construction activity, which means any improvement in what we do makes a significant contribution to industry. I don't know if you guys are interested in politics. I was watching a program on the BBC the other day, and politicians were arguing with each other. And they picked up on something that we sort of said, yes, that's the best idea for quite a long time. And that was PPP, or PFI, Private Finance Initiative, or what most of us know as public-private partnerships. And it was held as the best idea ever. But now we're being criticized. Why? Because now, after 20 years from starting these projects, the cost of these projects is 600 times, is 600% more than its capital cost. The projects have now accumulated cost that is 600% more than if the government decided to do it traditional way. So the eyes are on us, on how we're doing and how we're performing in terms of our projects. Now my question is it the lack of desire, i.e. we don't care, yeah? As our Egyptian friends would say, tie the donkey wherever, I don't care, you know, you asked me to do it like this. Or is it lack of opportunity? Are we allowed to achieve these improvements? I throw this question to you. From your experience, I'm not looking at sort of for you to strategize. From your experience working through number of projects, number of companies in the past, do you think there is lack of desire to improve, or is it there's no opportunity to improve?
I think it's a mix of communication, coordination. Lack of communication, coordination.
Okay, so there is no opportunity. Anyone else would like to add?
Basically, it's a lack of desire. People think, okay, this is not my job. Why will I do it? Do yourself.
Absolutely. So why should I pick up something? Great, thank you very much. Really, there is no motivation for us, as you said, to improve.
It's a lack of both, actually. It's a mix of both.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, the way projects are procured here, they're very traditionally procured. You have a design, and you go in to build as a contractor. And if you propose a change, which is probably better than the original design, you offend the client, you offend the engineer, and you're going to start an adversarial from day one. And then again, if you change anything and anything goes wrong, vice versa, they come back to you and hold you responsible for it. So even a good deed from your end can be termed as adversarial purely because of the way a relationship exists in the industry.
So, if I may use, it's the motivation. We feel demotivated because of number of reasons. We can blame the client, we can blame the contractor, we can blame the consultant. But at the end of the day, the individual, and you'll see from what we're going to discuss, it's really, at the end, is down to the individual. Yeah? If all that does not translate to a motivated individual capable and willing to improve practices, it's not going to happen. Okay. There are a number of beliefs as far as integration performance. We believe that integrated teams are more effective in delivering high performance. Agree? Okay. So integration is good for performance. But we also believe is that procurement will have an influence on the level of integration of the project team. Agree? Okay. But we also know that the procurement strategy adopted is greatly influenced by the client's priorities. Okay? But then how would you then tie up these? If the client priorities derive the development of procurement strategies that will not help you to achieve integrated teams. Okay? So what we're talking about, achieving integration is going to be several layers. Okay? Procurement is not going to solve it. By choosing design and build, an integrated procurement, it's not necessarily the easy solution to achieving integrated team. Research for the last 20, 30 years says design and build can be as fragmented as traditional. Yeah? It's down to the individual. I mean, you work in your own company. To what extent you can say you can work, you got a team within that particular company, within that particular department. What we need is that to see and influence drivers, incentives created for individuals to be sharing and working collaboratively. How can you work in a collaborative way when you have conflicting objectives and incentives? We can all understand this at corporate level. There's two different levels of looking at this. One at corporate level and one at project level, at project team level. At corporate level, each organization has its own priorities and will be approaching a particular project in a certain way. Does that necessarily translate to what's happened at individual level? We have the project manager who's going to play an important role. Okay? We'll talk about this. But what's interesting, I was looking at some of the research, and they did some case studies. And what they found, is that although when they identify integrated teams, they were associated with better performance, but they saw cases where you had an integrated team, but it actually wasn't a better performance. Yeah? Again, if you remember the picture we've seen of those guys who were driving, trying to push the car out. Yeah? Coordination is very important. Leadership is going to be very important. Although that you have a positive relationship between different team members, but if there is no effort to coordinate the work, it will be absolutely frustrating. How many times you find the supplier or the specialist contractor frustrated, goodwill, he wants to actually to help, yeah? But because of the poor leadership of the project manager, you'll find that integration is not leading to better performance. So there is no one single solution. Okay? What you need to have everything in place at different levels. You may be a positive person, you like to work in an integrated way, but you may get pressure from corporate office if they don't see the incentive for you to spending more time working with the team, finding new solutions, as your colleague have suggested. And this is the mentality of the industry, unfortunately. Years ago, I was doing research, and I met a consultant that was back in the UK. And what was interesting is that we were talking about how important to put a lot of effort with the client. And he said something I would never forget. He said, well, I'm a consultant, not like a contractor. The contractor has already secured his profit, decided and committed the resources, individuals, material, plant, everything, technology, and for a period of time, and he will achieve a particular level of profit. So if you spend hours with the client, doesn't matter. Me as a consultant, I got a timesheet. If I cannot charge almost all hours of the week to a client, then I have a hard time. Yeah? So it's the influence of corporate is very important, but again, as we come to the project team level, the individual level, those are important as well and very influential. I'm fascinated with this, and I'm interested in digging deep into this. Creating a common purpose. If you want something to happen, if you want a group, a team, to make something happen, you have to create a common purpose. Again, back to the car being pushed out of the mud. Yeah? What's the purpose? You're just, well, I'm just showing off, you know. You've seen those guys who put his hand, but he's not pushing, yeah? Yeah? And you'll find someone who's really, you know, he needs to get the car out of the mud because there's an important meeting he needs to catch, yeah? And so on and so on. So what you need is actually to create this common purpose. That's our objective is to get this solution. We want to make this building perform in a certain way. Clients now are getting smart about this and said, instead of creating the environment and the opportunity for people actually just not to put in 100% into the job, they're procuring by performance. And what I like, I've read a few months ago, is when, I'm not sure, I can't remember now if it was here or in Europe, and the building of the hospital, the client said, what I want you to build me a hospital where the outpatient is reduced from 5 days to 4 days. Yeah? Now, not the architect, not the civil engineer, not the structural, not the service engineer. No one can say, yeah, I can deliver this. Yeah? Because actually you need to be working together to find out, I don't understand this. How are we going to understand? What does it mean in structural terms, in service terms? What does it mean that I design and build a hospital where the outpatient takes only 4 days rather than 5 days? Now, as you see, as following the comment you made, well, actually, the client in this case is saying, no, I want you to bring something new. I want a solution. I don't care what shape the building is going to be. Yeah? I may, absolutely, I may have a budget, I may have a delivery time, but as far as what's your contribution, different professionals, it will have to be something that you decide. Creating a common purpose. In my view, the most powerful party in the project is the client. But the client could be confusing the team or could provide an inspiration for the team. Yeah? And that's why you'll find some organizations, contracted consultants, will say, well, actually, we don't work with every client. We choose clients. How many of you choose clients? Yeah? We choose clients. Why? When you're looking at innovative organizations, they are full of ideas and potential to develop new ideas. But they're looking for someone who can actually realize that, who actually can say, I want this, and therefore they can develop something new, and the client becomes a driving force. Yeah. Rather than, as you said, you work very hard and then deliver something and then the client looks at it and says, oh, the color is green. I don't like green. Yeah? Said, no, actually, we've done this. It can improve your sales, and it can improve whatever. So creating a common purpose. In order to achieve integration, sharing, we don't do this very well. Yes? We don't share. Why? Trust. Poor management, especially cross-cultural management. That's why we do not share. What we need to develop some collaborative methods, practices, behaviors. In my view, I have to admit, I struggled a little bit with PowerPoint. I wanted that one to be on the top. Anyway, it ended at the bottom. Yeah, that's a different story. But if you change the culture and hence change the behavior, then you'll be able to start introducing the practices and collaborative methods. Our friends now challenged by the use of BIM. Yeah, many organizations. I have to warn you, just like quality assurance back in the 1980s. If you do not see adding value, then it can work like a big stone tied to your neck. There are a number of examples in industry back in the 80s, early 90s, of companies going bust. Why? Because they continued investing in new ideas coming up without realizing the benefit and make them less competitive. So you need to start creating this sharing environment, which starts, not necessarily starts, an important part of it is making sure that you have the right people. When it's come to recruitment, yeah, I know you'll be blinded by the technical expertise, the GPA they got at the university and so on, but they're useless in terms of trying to work together. Yeah, they don't have the right attitude. Yeah, technology skills, you can always train people, but attitudes, unfortunately, sometimes it's what, you know, it grows with us, and sometimes is difficult to change. So, what do we need to do? Within the organization itself, many organizations, and I was having a debate with someone, the client is not interested in how well structured your organization is, how beautiful the organization structure is, to what extent, how many emails you use every day or memos spread around. That doesn't add any value. What adds value is the capability of people to move and make sure the idea happens. Yeah? You're in one department and you're thinking about a particular solution, but there is certain aspect you don't understand and it is in another department. Yeah? If you're going to have to get the permission from the head of section then after a day or two get the permission of head of department, and the head of department then gets the permission from the other head of department. And I'll tell you, I was having this discussion today. I said, I'm not going to be interested. Yeah? If it's not something I can do myself, I'm not going to do it. Yeah? To a certain extent, multi-skilling. I remember there was a guy who was doing a PhD a long time ago, and he was saying that maybe we need to develop more multi-skilled people in our industry. And I said, so we don't have to speak to each other, right? He said, no, you know, we can solve a lot of these problems. I said, well, it's an interesting idea. But that individual, yeah, if he developed, let's say, he got architecture knowledge, structural knowledge, and services knowledge. After maybe at the university level, you gave him all these courses. I can assure you, give him 2 or 3 years. Yeah, he will be one or the other. It's not going to be all of them. Yeah, which means is our clients will get compromised solutions. So what we need is start weakening those barriers within not only between design and construction, but even within the design and construction. We need to start looking at mutually beneficial outcomes. Although we're working for a client, but we individually have different objectives. Departments have different objectives. We need to start thinking how that translates all the way to the individual level. To what extent our individual team members can see the benefits of spending more time to work on that particular hospital to find that design that satisfies that performance outcome. And there's a lot of evidence, if you're interested, looking at constructing excellence or achieving excellence, these initiatives in UK. They found a lot of that evidence in that improving the project team effectiveness and project performance from having integrated working. Why we fragment? As individuals, sometimes we don't have enough space or enough motives to connect with others. We deal with when we talk about legal requirements, again, working in a particular project, you have the contract. So much emphasis on the contract. I hope my colleagues in contract law don't hear me. We give a lot of emphasis to the contract that we got obsessed with some of the terminologies, with some of the clauses. The best I've heard from an industrialist once when he said, the contract, we sign it and we put it in the drawer. Yeah? And then we work as a team. If you have any problems, we solve it. The minute we start looking at the contract, it means we have lost something between us. So you need to be putting a lot of effort into making sure that the legal requirements do not form barriers between the team. And of course, whatever puts on top of you the heavy burden of corporate culture. I'm sure any of you experience in working in a project, you would come across when you decided on something and the 2 or 3, the members of the team say, okay, let's get things run and approved by our corporations. Someone will pick up the phone and say, yes, fine. Someone else, it will take a week, say, well, look, you know, it will have to go through different departments. So to what extent the culture of the organization creates a barrier and a burden to full integration. And of course, there's no escape of trying to overcome the different professional orientation. And that's, in my view, is a responsibility of the project manager to realize, although you're a structural engineer and you believe building buildings is all about structures, but quantity surveying is important as well. Services, very important. Landscaping, very important. We need the acoustics. All these are very important, and therefore we need to recognize the importance of their contribution. We have organizations that tend to focus on their own profitability only. It is possible, and this is where the battle is, that the best solution may be the one that tilts the benefit more somewhere else. Yeah? But you need to see the full benefits rather than just profit. Individuals, think about your team, your own employees. There are people in your team, in your employees, will be excited in working in this particular project. Although your organization is not making as much as the others, but the experience in working in that particular project, in being part of the realization of a particular idea, has great value at individual and should be at corporate level as well. And I think this point, we already touched upon it, is about to what extent we appreciate what's being contributed. And that's an important role by the project manager, in terms how the team's contributions are valued. I know project managers tend to find this quite cumbersome, but you need to go to that level. If you're looking for a solution where individual contribution is going to be very important, then you have to realize you need to understand what makes people motivated. In a multicultural environment, I know it's more difficult, but believe me, it's more rewarding. What are the individual members' priorities? What their motivation? Experience, money, involvement, networking, involvement with a particular client. You can use all that. It's all that within your reach as a project manager. You can use that to motivate the individuals to be contributing to an integrated solution. Constructing Excellence developed this measure, a matrix, where they said there are a number of elements. Those elements will tell us if we're integrated or not. So if you want to achieve integration, you need to develop team identity. I'm not going to go through them in detail, but they need to see themselves as one. Not that you come and say, oh, you're working in this project, and that individual identifies himself by the name of the company rather than the project itself. Yeah? So to what extent you as a team identify yourself as a team, whether you have shared vision, whether you're capable of reflecting and self-assessing yourself, you have effective communication among yourselves, you have collaborative participation, so it's not only sitting watching others. Whenever there are issues, you negotiate and find resolution, rather you jump to the lawyers. And so if you build all that, yeah, and if you go to a website for Constructing Excellence, you'll find this and more to understand, actually, if we achieve this, we will be able to develop a more integrated team. The alignment of motivation, we can't, to say that we can all have the same motivation, that's not realistic. But what we want whatever every individual member of the team is motivated with, going to be achieved by working to that goal. Now, one of my colleagues did a PhD, and the PhD was very much sparked by this diagram, which says, what force, centripetal force, that the development of the project can bring all these perspectives on the project together to compromise, to accept the middle ground. Yeah? Yes, you'll have someone who thinks focusing on legal aspect is more important, or the technical aspect and so on. Fair enough, you need all that. But how the development of the idea can bring them all to share a common platform. What he did, he looked at two stages. He said, it's wrong for us to look at it as it's static. Actually, there's before and during. Because before you start implementing a new idea, you take the hospital example again. You'll find a lot of people say, okay, the different corporations involved in the project and with its own teams on site, they will all agree that's fair enough. We're going for this. We can see the benefits of supporting this idea, and of course the originator will be putting pressure, which could be formal pressure or contractual. Say, okay, this is what we're going to do. In my view, this is the easy phase. The difficult phase is when it comes to implementation. And when you say, actually, not 2 engineers, we're going to need 4. Yeah? And, oh, you thought we're going to spend 2 weeks. No, because this is going to be unique and we haven't done this before, it's going to be 4 weeks. Now, that's going to be quite testing. When you're going to require greater contribution in terms of resources to the development of the project. So what you need to make sure that you maintain that motivation, and that whatever the incentives are linked up to whatever you're going to need at a later stage. You need to ensure consistency, i.e. they continue pulling in the same direction. Yeah? It's easy, consistency, to achieve agreement at the beginning, but later on when there's a call for more resources, more effort from individual members of the team, I think that's where, you know, this integrated structure that you created start shaking and the links start be tested. And that's where coordination is critical. You need to make sure that you're not putting undue pressure on one side or the other. Better coordination may enable you to reduce the pressure on a particular party rather than the other in terms of resources. Because any imbalance will be eating into the perceived benefits of being part of this new idea. And if you've got any project that's failing, just read the report. You'll find one accuse the other. Say, yes, we tried our best, but they did not put enough machines, they did not put enough resources, the material they brought in were not up to standards, and so on. Okay. I'm conscious of the time, and I think variety. I would like to move to something slightly different, a case that I've used in the past, and I'm going to use it now based on a research one of my students recently finished, and alhamdulillah now is being published in an international journal paper. And that's where they look at innovation in a developing country far away from that contractor, the originator of the idea. In this case, this is about a non-government organization working in Africa to build a hospital sponsored by a Scandinavian country institution. And what they wanted is they wanted to provide health and educational facilities. You can see the figures and what's driving this particular project and why this project is seen important. Although these projects are important, but the figures shows that actually they are failing in a big way. Yeah? Let's look at the details. The program as a whole is creating awareness on human rights, educate and provide health services to the Maasai community in Kenya. That was the objective. I think they were Norwegian, and the Norwegian sponsor wanted the best for those people. They said, I want a hospital as same quality as that in Norway. You feel good about this, yeah? So Mr. Project Manager, build a team that's going to deliver this. You thought your work in Dubai is challenging. see what this guy has to deal with. The Maasai tribe lives in traditional, simple way, away from modern life. They have their own leadership structure. You can imagine 43 tribes and hundreds of sub-clans. Yeah, so if they have the House of Parliament, it has to be quite huge. Yeah, but you can think about how the project team need to work with such a client. Yeah, making sure this new, hospitals may not be new in Norway, but in this particular location, it is new. Look at the words of one of the participants. There was significant resistance. The project team was part Norway and part local. And there was quite a tension. There was a poor understanding and there was poor integration between the different individual team members. There's a lack of understanding of the differences. One example, which is not here in the slides, was in the paper. The Norwegian team members thought their colleagues, the locals, are lazy. Yeah, they come and lie back and take a lot of rest when they come charging early in the morning. And so they developed this negative stereotype. After a while, they found out the reason. Those guys are hungry. They have very little to eat. So when they start, very quickly they become very tired. Yeah? So not because they're lazy. So also, what they thought is a great idea, well, that's your interpretation. Can you imagine this team sitting around the table and trying to agree on different details of how to build this hospital or the school? I'll show you a slide, a very powerful slide in a minute. And this is another admission by a team member. We just thought we knew better, which is nothing but ignorant. Yeah? Well, okay, that's in Africa. How many times when you sat in your project talking about something and you thought the same about a colleague? Yeah? And that's, if you go to a previous slide, when we talked about valuing the contribution of others. Do not undervalue the contribution of others. And this was, they said, this is something which we did not do. We needed to listen, not talk, know, not assume, and just be present. Give time for others to make a contribution. Otherwise, you'll be fragmenting the team. When they developed the program, they had, and the plan for the project, they had very little appreciation of what's available. Yeah? They thought, yeah, okay, we need to change spare parts every now and then. Okay, of course, tires, we can get tires and batteries. Where are you going to get tires and batteries? You don't go, to Sana'a next door and get them. No, they're not available. This is my student. Yeah. This is the most powerful slide. I was giving this in an international conference, and they asked me to put it back. The international team and the local. What they thought, the international team, the most important thing is effective implementation, advanced practices, best results, best standards. But that's not what the local community or team wanted. They wanted to preserve our way of life. We don't want to change. Yes, we may be, dress in a certain way, not maybe wear shoes, maybe not eat like you eat. We don't want you to change it. We don't want you to build a hospital that requires to behave differently to how we behave traditionally. We don't want schools and curriculum that requires certain behavior that is different to what we have traditionally. So you can see how important developing this common purpose would have been to create that integrated team. One of the lessons is that, and we don't do a lot of that. I come across one example, a case study one of my students did on ex-architects. Anyone know ex-architects? Well-known architecture firm. I like it. It's a young firm. Well, it was young 10 years ago, probably a teenager now. But they did Zero Town. You may be familiar with Zero. Anyway, one of the things, and what was attributed to the innovation and the successful innovation, is the client very much told them that. Do not come and sort of, I want you to design the neighborhood like this or like that. They said, no, I want the neighborhood to be emerging from the locality, which challenged the project team, but triggered a lot of new ideas. Always identify the most influential, and you need to gain their trust. And of course, you need to be more competent in understanding and working with culture. So, integrating project team can bring huge benefits, but, and I think we need to sell those benefits to the leadership in our organizations, so because it requires from them significant change. The mindset of barriers and authority and demarcations, that's not going to help. And leadership is integrated, because just having an integrated team, you're unlikely to realize the benefit. You need the leadership that can use that to deliver those benefits. Procurement frameworks, again, could facilitate integration, but by themselves, they are not enough. Again, it requires careful attention to the dynamics of what happens within the project itself. Okay, I think that's probably how much I wanted to say, and I would like now to give way for anyone who wants to make a contribution, share an idea, a comment. Okay, well, thank you all very much for coming to this session. It was part of the British University in Dubai Sharing Week. It's an opportunity for people like me to share some thoughts with you guys. Don't hesitate. If I think my colleagues will make the material available to you. If you want to pick up anything, any of the points we've discussed, you're most welcome. You can contact us. But please, look at the schedule. There are more events happening during this week. Right, Ahmed? Yes? Look at the schedule. Every day? This week and next week. Yeah? So you can forget about early lunch, early dinner. Yeah? Thank you very much for coming today. Thank you.